Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Find Me in a Book podcast. I'm Tav. Welcome back. Welcome if you're new. Welcome if you are just like, I just want to know more about this book because it's hyped up everywhere. It's new. Welcome if you're a longtime listener and you're like, all right, let's do this. Just welcome to everyone. I hope that you enjoy this little podcast. I would describe myself as very calm. And you know when I feel very passionate about a book because I am not calm. I might raise my voice when I'm just kidding. I never raise my voice in this podcast. I'm just a pretty chill person. I like talking about these books. Some of them I get more in detail than others. Most of these episodes do have spoilers, so this one has a little bit, but there is going to be a little twist at the end, which I'm not going to tell you. So I think you're pretty safe in this episode if you're like, I just kind of want to know a little bit more about it, but I do actually want to read the book eventually. This is perfect for you because we're not going to go into it a lot. I'm going to talk about the characters. I'm going to talk about a couple situations that happened at the beginning. And then I'm going to let you know when we are going to move on from that part and tell you a little bit about the end without telling you spoilers, because that's one thing Ali Hazelwood does well. She just sets you up, and there is usually a twist at the end. A lot of times it leads to like the fourth act breakup or third act breakup, whatever you want to call it. But this book was different, and this book was a plot twist. It really was like a really big plot twist. Sometimes it's a plot twist just between like the two main characters, but this was like a plot twist from the very beginning that you don't know about, and then you find out about the end. And I honestly had no idea. There was a little bit of hints, like a little bit past halfway, that I was like, wait, are they alluding to this? And then a couple of things happen that you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this was coming. So she does very, very good about these little plot twists that you don't see coming. So I love that about Ali Hazelwood. I love her characters. And I think I mentioned this in every book that I talk about of hers that we cover on like the podcast and everything. Her characters are so smart, and I love that. Not just like street smart, common sense smart, but they're like book smart. They're usually like some type of like scientist or engineer. And I found out Ali Hazelwood herself is a writer for like a peer-reviewed articles about brain science. She pursued her PhD in neuroscience. Incredible. Like incredible. And I love her writing because sometimes it does go way over my head that I'm like, oh, this is too sciencey. Like I have no idea. Like I graduated in business and I don't really know what I'm doing. But she has a way of balancing like professional ambitions of her characters while also taking us like on this a journey, I guess you could say, to see like the growth of like the personal desires of the characters, which I love that each of her characters always have so much growth that she also pulls from like real people in like real life. I don't know if it's like people around her or anything, but they're like real personalities and real types of people that you might encounter. And that's so refreshing. They're not just a stale kind of like cookie cutter personality. Like, I don't know, she varies a lot in her characters, and I just really like that because some authors just stick to what they know, that there might be a little like deviation from this cookie cutter that they use, but for the most part their main female characters are kind of all the same, or one might be more sassy a little bit, or one might be a little bit more stubborn. But with Ali Hazelwood, they are like whole different personalities, and to really get into that, and I'll get into that in a little bit because I want to back up. And I think my sister, because we're going to talk about the mother-sister standard, this is spicy, but it was a different kind of spicy. That, yes, it's pretty descriptive, but it's not the usual sex that you find in books where it's like over the top or super hot and steamy, and they just like are so lustful and can't get enough of each other. It's not like that. It's like very, how do I put it? Like very respectful and also like kind of a matter of fact, but yet there are I don't even know how to describe this. Like, and maybe I'll be able to describe it once we really get into who these characters are. But I think my sister would really like this book, and I think that my mom would like it because it's a dual point of view, but it's written in like third person, so it's not like I and me. It's more like she and him. So I think in that way my mom might like it. I want to say that this book is kind of like introspective because these characters have like pretty heavy backgrounds, like childhoods growing up, and they're not cookie cutter, they're not sunshines and smiles. Like both of them come from a rough childhood that contributes to who they are and their personalities. And I don't know if that would be too much for my mom. I think that I would want her to really enjoy it. And I think I will suggest that she reads it. Of course, I'll tell her to like skip the spicy parts if she needs to, which secretly I think she reads them, but she doesn't tell us, one of those secrets. But I really think that they would both enjoy this book because I mean I really did, and it's not just your run of the mill smut and spiciness. It's very well written and really makes you think. I don't know, what does it really make you think about? Like it was very good. It was very deep. You go on like a personal journey with each of the characters, and there's just so much substance to this book. It's not just like, oh, grab it on the go, like want a sweet little spicy steamy book. It's not that. It's not. It's a deep book without being really long. And I think I've explained it as much as I can without like really getting into it. So let's kind of get into it a little bit. We're going to talk about Rue, which Rue is our main female character. She is very matter of fact. She has kind of a difficult time processing emotions and picking up on social cues, which it gave me like I've met multiple people like this, and I don't know if people lean towards more like, oh, they have autism or they're on the spectrum. And I don't want to relate it to that because it very much could not be that, But I have met people like this, and they are very interesting people. I like talking to them because they are very matter of fact, very blunt, very smart. She is shy and smart, and she, of course, is an engineer. Her and her best friend Tisha are engineers, and she goes on this dating app to get laid. And she doesn't want a relationship. She doesn't want dating. She doesn't even really like penetrative sex. Like on this dating app, she has a rule of no repeats, and she doesn't enjoy penetrative sex. And so when she does meet up with these guys, he has to, reciprocate, or it's not just like a, hey, I'm gonna, penetrate you, I'll be done, bye. It's more of a collaboration that she's found, that when she says that she doesn't like penetrative sex, then the guy has to be, giving and make sure that she comes, make sure he comes. It's more cooperative. And so that's what one of her rules is, which I thought was really interesting. And she works at a lab called Klein, and she is in the middle of researching food nanotechnology. And there is like a background of why she chose to go into that, which I'm not gonna tell you. It has to do with her background. It has to do with her childhood. It's very interesting, and kind of it's tragic. It's hard to learn about because I think that it is a really prevalent problem nowadays with like poor households. And so it's very interesting how that comes into play, and where she is as a person now. So yeah, we do meet Tisha. She also works at the lab. She's also an engineer, and she is working on biofuels, I want to say. And they've been friends since elementary school. And their boss, Florence, they are good friends with. Florence is the CEO of the Klein place that they work. So at the beginning, Tisha and Rue are asking Tisha's little sister, who's a lawyer, like, hey, what does this mean if like this private equity firm is coming in and buying this loan? Basically, Klein's loan is being bought by a private equity firm called Harkness Group, which brings us to Eli. Eli is a very kind soul. He is immediately smitten by Rue. So he meets her via the app. She's very matter of fact and like punctual on the app. No LOLs, no ha-has, just very like straightforward. And so he's like, okay, this works for me. Like I haven't been on this app in a while. Like let's just do this. So he gets to the hotel to meet her, and she is actually arguing with a man. And he's like, okay, maybe this was like a fling, or maybe this is a guy that doesn't like no for an answer, or her rule of like not a repeat. And so he like goes up to them and he's like, hey, like let go of her, because the guy had like grabbed her arm. He's like, hey, let go of her, kind of threatens him a little bit. Later on we learn that it's her brother. So once her brother does leave, he can tell that she's not in the mood. And also she tells him straight up, like, hey, I'm sorry about tonight. I just can't do it. Like, I'm not in the mood. And he's like, okay, like that's understandable. He's a very patient, understandable person. And he still is like, he's like, she's so beautiful. Like, I love her bluntness. I love just this vibe that she gives out. Just, I love it. He's immediately like, okay, what can I do to be with her? And so he's like, well, I think Vince, I think it's Vance, the brother, he's still outside. And so she's like, he doesn't know where I live. And he's like, well, let me take you home. And so it takes a little bit of convincing. She asks him for his driver's license, which, yes, girl, way to be safe. She takes a picture of his driver's license, sends it to Tish. They make some really small, like, jokes, like dry jokes on their way home, humor. And she tells him that and she doesn't understand why she's being this open with him. Just something about him she trusts. And so she tells him that her brother has been harassing her for a while, and usually it's when he's drunk, because their estranged father died a couple months ago and left them a cabin, and she doesn't want to sell it because that's really the only part of her father that she knows about or has of. She never talked to him and just never had anything to do with him. He never came around. So she doesn't want to sell it, but he does, because most likely he's not going to use the money wisely. And so she refuses to talk to him, to sign any deals. Like, she wants to get like some lawyers involved, see what she can do, because it is split 50-50. And so she wants to figure out how to buy him out, but she doesn't have the money. And so it kind of goes throughout the whole book of her situation with that. And Eli walks her to her front door because he's like, I'm going to wait around just in case. I want to make sure that you're safe. This part, I just loved it. I loved it so much because Ali Hazelwood, she captures, and I don't know how she was, and maybe it was just the state of mind that I was in at the time reading this, but she somehow captures the way that we feel during a first kiss, or like leading up to a first kiss, like that flutter, like really nervous, making eye contact feeling, and then like the slow tension going in for the first kiss. Like, I was obsessed. Like, as I was reading this, I was feeling those feelings too, of like, and remembering when like me and my husband were meeting and had our first kiss, and like being nervous around this new person. And she somehow just captivates you with it. Like, she captures you. I don't even know how she did it, but I was like, oh my gosh, I am feeling these feelings. And they have their first kiss, and it's beautiful. And then Rue goes in and shuts the door, and nothing else happens. Like, she just goes to bed. He is entranced. Like, he is so smitten already. And these are the words that Ali Hazelwood uses at the whole paragraph at the bottom of page 36. Like, he is spellbound. It says, like, he would go grocery shopping and make her dinners off YouTube recipes of her choice. He'd wash her car. He'd read her books. He'd sit here outside her door and just make sure she was safe and protected. He considered begging her to let him touch her. He was her servant. Like, he is immediately like, how can I be around her? How can I have a piece of her? How can I just be in her environment, in her atmosphere? Like, what do I need to do? And that's the feeling that you chase when you are meeting a new partner or even being with a partner, that you want your partner to want you like that. That's one thing I will admit that I want to get better at, because you do go through those phases, and people call it like the honeymoon phase, because in that honeymoon phase, you want each other. Like, you want everything that they are. I mean, hopefully throughout the whole partnership or relationship, like, you're their number one cheerleader. Like, you are their person. And sometimes you lose that a little bit, where, of course, like, I'm my husband's number one cheerleader, like, but it's like the obsession or the want, that it's like, yes, you do want your partner, but you're not always obsessed with him. And I think that's what happens in the honeymoon phase, where you're just like obsessed with each other, that you don't care where you are, who you're with, like, you just want to be with them constantly and 24/7. And you lose that. I will admit, like, you lose that. And then you have to come back together and figure out how to get that back. And a lot of people don't. And that's how, one of the reasons why I think marriages like fizzle out, or partnerships, relationships fizzle out, is because you lose that of wanting, like, that obsession, or like wanting them constantly, or being obsessed with it. I hope this makes sense. And so that makes it a little bit rough. I'm in that stage. We're in that stage in the marriage of, like, year 11, where I want to find that again. And of course, nothing bad. Like, we love each other. We are number one supporters. Sorry, I feel like, are we at marriage therapy? I don't know. But, like, that obsession where I'm like, how do I become obsessed with him again? Like, how do I find that? Like, we love each other. We want each other. It's just that obsession where I'm like, I need to find that again. And I think that is always good, like, just to refresh that between you and a person, especially when you bring kids into the marriage too, or like the partnership, relationship, that it's hard because your time is diverted to the kids, and they're your number one. And honestly, I don't know. I don't have kids, but this is what I'm assuming and guessing. And so you want to find that. And coming back to this book, like, Ali Hazelwood, she portrays this so well, is the obsession. Like, you want to be with that person, and whatever they want to do, you want to do. Wherever they are, you want to be there. Like he's obsessed with her, but he's so respectful. Eli is so respectful of her space, but also in a way that pushes her outside of her comfort zone. And he is so patient with her and her growth. And he has a way of just understanding her and understanding how her background and childhood plays into things. And he helps her work through the emotions that she's feeling, the new emotions that she's feeling, because she doesn't know how to feel and really convey emotion. And so he helps her through that. And I thought that was very beautiful. And so the next day, like after that night, the Harkness group shows up, the ones that are buying the loan from Klein. And he's one of the founders. And she's like, whoa, I don't know how to feel about this. And he's like so excited. He's like, I haven't been able to stop thinking about her. I mean, it's only been a day, but he's like, I have to be around her. Whatever I can do, I just want to be around her. And of course, she thinks that they are scheming, heartless people taking over Klein, because that's what she's learned from Florence. But really, there is a lot more to why they are there. And we find that out, and it kept me guessing the whole time why we don't like the Harkness group, but yet there are so many hints to, like, there's more to what meets the eye. And so you just have to keep an open mind that it's like, no, we actually don't hate the Harkness group. There's more to their intention. There's more to what they're doing, and it's actually really great. They can't stay away from each other. He of course at first, and she starts to realize like, no, I kind of like want to always be around him, and I do want to take off or like pick up from where we left off. Like we didn't really do anything. And so he kind of takes control of the situation, and he's like, "Hey, meet me at the hotel." I don't know if it was that first day or maybe it had been a little bit longer. That they just, I don't know, they just gravitate towards each other. They meet up and they start to trade stories of their childhood. And there's no judgment, there's no emotion. And she doesn't know why. She doesn't know why she starts sharing these things with him. But he doesn't show emotion to her. He just knows that she needs a listening ear. And that's what he gives her. And he also gives her back childhood stories of his own. And so she does the same, no judgment, no emotion. And I wrote this from the book, but it said, we tell each other the kinds of stories that we couldn't tell anyone else because they'd make people uncomfortable or sad or feel like they need to laugh politely, minimize, or comfort. We share horrible things that we have done, that have been done to us, and then wait and see if the other is going to be so appalled that they finally leave. But somehow that never happens. We don't make small talk. And I thought that was beautiful. I thought it was beautiful that they're able to immediately share that with each other, and that's how they grow. They really don't do small talk in this book, and I appreciated that. They each were very solid conversations that were very growing towards each character and felt like had substance and wasn't just fluffy, thrilly stuff, to get to the steamy parts. Like, it was all very constructed and all very relevant, if that makes sense. And like I mentioned before, Ali Hazelwood has a great twist, like 3/4 of the way through, that usually in some books it contributes to that breakup. But again, this book was different because it wasn't emotional. Like they didn't break up because they weren't together. And Rue is a very rational character in general. And so she was able to process what was happening. She did have emotions and she wanted to act on them, but Eli helped her think through her thoughts and really process what had happened and come up with a plan on how to fix things. And just really looked at like the facts of like, hey, let's not go down this way. Hey, this is could happen. Here's a way that we can do this. And he like fights for her and she realizes that, and they come together and share more personal stories and just really figure out that they love each other. And it was beautiful. It was a very beautiful book, and it is a more serious book. There is a couple funny parts, but nothing that I felt was like laugh out loud or anything. Like, this is definitely not a comedy. It's very emotional, very serious, very character building, just raw. It's a very raw book that they feel like very real people, that this could be like nonfiction, if I'm being honest. Like she just has a way of portraying them that I just really enjoyed. So that that is Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, and it did just come out like a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and I had to jump on it because I knew it would probably be a hit, and I'm really glad that I did. Last episode, I said that I was starting Crescent City, listening to it. I didn't get any farther than what I did. It was a pretty busy week when I did start it, and then my brother and dad did come into town this past weekend, so I didn't have a lot of time to like read or listen or anything like that. But I did go to a used bookstore called Bookman's, which I've saw it all over TikTok, and they're in like different states. I want to say maybe just Arizona. But I did get quite a few used books, which I'm really excited about. So the books that I was able to pick up, thankfully, most of them were on my list that I was going to buy anyways. And so when I saw that they were in like the used section and good quality and cheaper, I was like, ooh, so sorry, husband, I'm going to buy these. The first one was The Long Game by Alina Armas. And we know that the Spanish love deception wasn't my favorite, but I did like it towards like the second half. And to be honest, I don't know why I bought this book actually, because this is one that I didn't like. It was the other one, the roommate agreement or something like that, that I meant to get because I thought this was it and I didn't really look at it, but I was like, oh my gosh, books. So then now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, why did I buy this? But you know what? People can borrow it and it'll be fine. And maybe one day I will reread it and really like it, but it's in my library. Okay, so the next one I got was Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter. This one I haven't read at all, but of course I've heard really great things about it. Actually, let's see, one, two, three. Three of the books I have read, and then four of the books I have not read. We got a mixture here. So, Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter, and then I got The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. Heard great things about this. I just haven't had a chance to really pick it up. And then I randomly found this one. I've never heard of it, never heard of the author, nothing about it, but it intrigued me from the back. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. It's called A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley. It looked cute. It sounded cute. I hope it is cute. So I got that. And then I got The Deal from Elle Kennedy, which is the off-campus series. And I'm wanting to get all of these books anyway, so they only had this one. I'm like, okay, I'll slowly build my library of them. And then there were so many like older romance books there, like from like Debbie McComber, I think that's her name, and Nora Roberts. There's just so many that I was like, okay, honey, husband, just pick one that you want me to read. So he did. He picked, let's see, Dead of Winter by Marilyn Ross. It's a best-selling author of Delta Flame, The Stewards of Stormhaven. It's a gothic saga. Let's see when. Apparently, it was $1.75 to buy it. This was only $3. Let's see. Wow, these were really cheap books. 1978. That's when this book came out. I'm excited to read it. Okay, Dead continues the tremendously exciting new series of gothic romances by world-famous Marilyn Ross, set in a family of dark mysteries and tumultuous passions. This spellbinding saga will appear exclusively in popular library editions. I think this happens in like Scotland or something. When lovely young American Elizabeth Janey first set foot in the Scotland of her Stuart ancestors, she felt as if she were entering a realm of enchanted romance. But all too soon that enchantment turned to an evil as the burning fires of passion yielded to the icy blasts of fear. Oh my gosh. Okay, I hope that this is easier to read than the last book that he got for me, because that one was impossible and I did not finish it. I'm kind of intrigued to know like how spicy this is. 1978, we're gonna see what the standards were back then, so I'm really excited to actually read that. And then the last book that I got, it's so strange that from Lucy's Score, her three books, like Things We Hide from the Light, Things We Never Got Over, and then Things We Left Behind. So for some reason I only had the first and third one. I know I had the second book. I want to say that my sister-in-law has it, but she didn't give it back to me when I got all the other books back from her. So I'm like, sus, you know? And then I thought that it was the third one that I didn't have, so I bought the third one again. And then it was too late to return it, so I sent it to my sister. And now I finally have the second one again. Even though I've read them, it was killing me that I only had the first and the third one. So I was able to find the second one to make everything complete. And now my world is good. So quite a few books that are being added to the library. I don't know what I'm going to be reading next. I did just put my TBR on my Instagram, so go and look at that. A couple of the books didn't change from last month because I just did not have a chance to read them, and I don't want them to get lost in the numerous books on my TBR, so I just put them on there again. So that I can remember that those are next in line, and then all these other books as well. But this week, the husband is not here. He is in Utah. And so I can just read like the whole night if I want to. And once I get off work, I can just read. And it will be really great. And I'm so excited. I'm hoping to get a lot of reading done this week. But yeah, like I said, I didn't get any farther in Crescent City. My best friend Caitlin, she is just about finished with like the Nyctos and Sarah series of like the Blood and Ash. So she's pretty caught up with me. And then I think we're going to listen to The Butcher and the Blackbird together. So that one will be coming up. I probably will do an episode on it. And then I'm trying to think what else. I think we want to listen to Neon Gods by Katie Roberts or Robertson. I can't remember her last name. It's either, I think it's Roberts. And then the one by Emily Rath, Pucking Around, I think that's what it's called. We're going to listen to that one together. And then we wanted to listen to Crescent City at the same time. So that one is being put on the back burner. So I'm not going to be talking about Crescent City for a while until we like really start listening to that. So just wanted to make you aware that that's what's going on. Any questions, comments, put them on my Instagram post. Let's see, what else? Is there anything else that I need to tell you guys? I think we're pretty good with everything. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Wherever you listen to this episode, if you can rate and review, that definitely helps me out. If you follow me on Instagram, follow me social media, or the streaming service, wherever you listen, everything helps me out. Any interaction, I love it. We have another week. We can get through this, and I will talk to y'all next week.